Hello, my name is John Savage. I'm a Gatineau resident. I moved here from Ontario. My Ontario doctor had retired, and now I need a doctor in Quebec. The only alternative, according to the province, after calling 811, is this clinic called Clinic Medical. This is my fourth time being here. Each time I have not been able to get in because the lineups are too long. From what I understand, you have to get here at 6 a.m. This has been an incredibly cold winter. This is like third world medical system conditions where you have to line up at 6 a.m. The only difference is most third world countries don't have freezing cold winters like we do. So it's like being in a soup kitchen lineup. The only thing is everybody is sick. And frankly, it's humiliating for me to do this. I feel bad. The only good thing I can say is that the people in the lineup are pretty nice. This is Gatineau. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in Canada. None of them want to be interviewed about this because they're embarrassed about it. And how can you blame them? This is their community. This was ranked as one of the best. Ottawa-Gatineau was ranked as one of the best communities in the world to live in. And yet on this side of the river, we're like the poor cousins of the Ottawans. More people, according to the Ottawa Citizen's recent article, from Gatineau go to Ontario hospitals than they do to their own hospitals, and I can understand why. With this medical clinic, they were advising me to wait at 6 a.m. just to wait for the doors to open at 8 a.m. You don't even get seen, the first person doesn't even get seen till 9 a.m. because they spend an hour processing between about 20 to 40 people, sometimes more. And the doctor sometimes shows up, sometimes doesn't. I came here on April 1st. The clinic was closed. There was no note as to where you could go for alternative treatment. They will not refer you to another clinic because they don't know about the other one. So they don't even give you basic referral. They say just call 811. A fellow I was standing in lineup was saying that when he called 811, the woman on the other line used she said, "Oh hell, really? You're in the worst region in Quebec." So that's not surprising based on what I've seen here. The other concern I have is that a lot of people here who line up are sick. And the fellow I was just talking to, he didn't want me to use his name because a lot of them are shy about their identity on this. But he was saying his fever was 100 when he got here, and it went up to 105 by the time he was in the doctor's office several hours later. So anyway, that's pretty inhumane. I've asked Roger Fleury, the Green Party candidate, who's a friend of mine, by the way, and who's actually done excellent work trying to focus each of the elections he's been in back onto local issues, and he's done so quite well. And this is the latest issue that he's promoted, and with my suggestion, and it seems to be very timely because this Ottawa Citizen has put out a whole bunch of articles on this, including one article called Gatineau, Quebec's Forgotten Region. And it's kind of sad, and it's kind of embarrassing, and it's humiliating that we're known in Gatineau as the region that can't even speak up for themselves on healthcare. Now the real problem of it, in terms of my getting health care in Ottawa, now that I'm going through this, I tore something in my shoulder, I don't know what it is, through a ski accident. I haven't been attended to in 2 months, so the scar tissue, as you can imagine, is building up. My sleep is getting worse and worse with bursitis and all the rest. If I go to an Ontario clinic, they're going to charge me $60 just to see the doctor. Nobody else in Canada has to pay $60 up front to see a medical practitioner. Over there, they may even say, "Sorry, we have too many Ontario patients to deal with. You're from Quebec, go back and get treated in Quebec, or come back another day." To me, that's utterly humiliating. Why is that? There's a number of reasons. One is there's no agreement between Quebec and Ontario to have this national capital region provide integrated health services. You know, a lot of the hospitals in Ottawa are centers of excellence. We don't have any here in Gatineau. If we had an integrated health system, we would have an agreement in place with financial compensation to Ontario so that we could have our patients go over there and then share services. And it just seems very short-sighted of the politicians, or really quite stupid on their part that they haven't figured this one out. But I think it's more to do with politics than it is to do with problem solving, because it isn't rocket science. One of the key issues is that we don't pay our doctors in this region the same that they get paid on the Ontario side. What does that mean? When a doctor comes to one of the world's best communities to live in, they choose to live in Ottawa because they'll get paid more. What does that mean to Gatineau's? It means we don't get as many doctors. With Marois' anti-religious fashion accessory charter, she's going to try and scare all the doctors that would wear a crucifix or a hijab or a nun's habit to the Ontario side. And that's just complicating the issue even more. So we don't see any kind of leadership in that part. Okay, under the Liberal candidate, during his tenure, how many years has he been in power?
8 years.
8 years.
No, 208 to today. 6 years.
6 years. And how many people die needlessly per year compared to Ottawa?
Well, if we're looking at roughly 500 a year, we're looking at 3,000.
3,000 people. 3,000 people may have died needlessly because the healthcare differences between Gatineau and Ottawa because of government inaction. And one of the key during the Liberal incumbents' tenure, and it's an easy solution. You just fund the doctors on the other side for seeing our patients at the same rate that they see other Ontario doctors. In the old days, the doctors were telling me Quebec used to pay more for their patients. In fact, so what that meant was the doctors on the Ontario side actually wanted Quebec patients to treat. In fact, in some cases, they gave preference to Quebec patients, which isn't necessarily the right thing either, but it shows you the difference, because now under the Liberals and the PQ governments the past few years, they're now being penalized for seeing Gatineau residents. The other issue for them is even those who agree to being paid 60% of what they would get from the Ontario government, even when they do see our patients, they're penalized again because they have to wait a long period of time to get compensation from the Quebec government. The same thing for the Gatineau's. When we send in our receipts for services over in Ontario, we have to wait a long time too. So now, anyway, while I'm speaking to you, I probably lost my place in the lineup. I'm in the back now. I probably won't be seen today. I'm going to have to come back the 5th time to try and just get a referral to a sports medicine doctor or physician or a physiotherapist to then maybe get my shoulder attended to. The other ailment that I have, I'm not going to be able to see him. I'll do a self-medication thing. I have a friend on the Ontario side who's got access to research. I'll just find out what sort of practice, alternative medicine solution I can use for that. Anyway, that's enough about my view on things, other than to say that right now we have a strike in Halifax where the nurses have gone on strike. From what I understand, they're still actually accepting people at the family doctor clinics, so in effect they still have better medical services than we do, with 1 in 4 people not having a family doctor here, and the rest on longer wait times. We have a higher death rate, we have a higher illness rate. My own mother was in an overcrowded clinic. She did not get attended to in time for her own cancer to be diagnosed. The nurse had convinced her to come back 2 months later. That was too long for her cancer. If she had been attended to on time, the medical research shows that she perhaps could have had a 80% chance of survival, but after waiting 2 months with that kind of cancer, she only had a 20% chance of survival. Within the year she was dead. So the reason why I asked Roger to come down here with me while I waited in the line was to help illustrate this issue and to avoid situations where people like my mother and your mother and your friends and family die as well. So anyway, Roger?
John, I wish you the best, and thanks for bringing this issue. As you know, and I totally agree with you, and I've said that before, Gatineau and Ottawa is one city. So being one city, we should be going from north-south. So if we had the same salaries here, we have the doctors, we have the manpower. It's just that the way the decision making is in Quebec City. When Quebec City looks for Quebec City, look from Montreal, and they seem to be, I think they're jealous of us because we have a good standard of living, we got good salaries and so forth, so they kind of get even with the services. They just don't give them to us. And the other thing is, they're coming out and they're saying everything is French, the charter, the referendum, the language issues, and it doesn't touch us because we are a bilingual town. And a minute ago I spoke with the people in the lineup, and I agree with you, they don't like to be interviewed or publicly and say what they say off the record. They said we are bilingual, we have to be bilingual, so we don't have, this is not our problem. So they don't feel it, so we're a part, and we should be the capital city like we are. So Gatineau, Ottawa is the capital city, and we should be looking to integrated services. So the health services were integrated, we wouldn't have this problem of having to pay extra, or we wouldn't have this problem of waiting in line. Imagine a while ago somebody said, well, I sometimes get here at 5:30 if I want to come, try to get in, I get here at 5:30 to make sure I'll go through.
Okay, so why is it that Quebec does not pay the doctors in our region, let's say? I mean, it'd be simple. You just say people in our region we'll pay the doctors the same amount as in Ottawa to try and keep things equitable, because we understand you're the only border town with this problem. Because there aren't any other border towns of the same size as Gatineau that have this issue. So why doesn't the government, or why don't any of the other candidates agree that we should match the fees? Because that's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is a no-brainer, but the thing is, and it comes down to the saying, for example, people are just tolerating, or people figure there's nobody listening to them. So a minute ago when I was asking them and so forth, a lot of them said, well, what can I do? They're really, no matter what I'll do, they just won't listen to us. And I think people haven't, well, some people, it's almost at the beginning of a revolt. You know, people are just getting late and they're getting more angry and more angry, or angrier if you want to. And eventually, and I said, you have to pass the action. You have to look like Scotty Bowman when he said it's not working. You're losing. You're on a losing streak. The only way to stop a losing streak, you got to do something different. And I said, on that particular point, it's maybe time that you vote for a protest vote and send somebody there that'll talk. Because the people, I think, we're sending backbenchers that have been just ignoring the real issues, and we tolerate it. And as long as we're going to tolerate it, they're not going to settle it. So I think we have to do something different.
Okay, the question I have for you, Roger, is that you've been trying to contact the media about this issue. You had a press conference today, and none of the media have shown up again. You were you were excluded from the MAD TV, Videotron's television channel, which is owned by Pelado. You're excluded from the debate, which meant that your issues weren't discussed among the mainstream candidates. They got to debate things like the referendum and a charter of intolerance, Mayor Roy's charter of intolerance. So why is it that the media does not care about health care and the message that you're trying to promote, that Gatineauais deserve something better than third world medical conditions?
Well, I think the media, when you look at Monsieur Pelado, which I admire for many things, it's all like art. And the thing is, these guys control the news, and what they did, they decided it was charter, they decided it was it was a referendum, they decided it was the language issue, and it doesn't touch us. And the thing is, whether some people say, hey, the people here, that's not what they want, they decide what the issues are. And they decide them in Quebec City, they decide them in Montreal, and we are not Montreal and Quebec City. So the thing is, down there, if they want to speak French and they only speak French, there's not a problem with that. But here, it's a bilingual city. So the minute you say something a little different, well, the media's here don't touch it, because they're owned by the guys up outside. So that's one of the problems. And when you do say something like that there, well, they just ignore you. So we're not big, mind you. If we were larger, we just could put ads, I suppose, in the paper, and everything runs by money, I suppose, too. You know. So being a small group, well, they don't. And when you speak to the people, I taught school and so forth. I think they're laissez-faire. A lot of people are happy-go-lucky, but the fact that they're laissez-faire in the sense that they don't like to criticize, they're really nice people, is they're taken advantage of. And what it is, it's just like cattle. After a while, what it is you just say yes, 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 and the guys, they think you're sheep and they just walk right over you. So Quebec and Montreal are walking right over us. Everything is going towards them. And we are a town that's rich. and our money is going down that way. And the thing is, we shouldn't be going from west to east. We are not going by Montreal and Quebec City. They don't represent us. It's more Ottawa, Gatineau. It's the capital of Canada. Now, we should be going north south. Now, and this is why we want to look, if I may, would be pushing and organizing for a charter or a special status for our city, because the needs of Montreal and Quebec City are not our needs. So we have to change. Sorry, John.
Well, I was just going to say, is it that Gatineauans have to take leadership into their own hands, and do you think they understand that their vote is actually casting a vote on issues, or do they think it's like some sort of popularity contest?
I think Gatineau's are more like the people I spoke to in the lineup a while ago in this clinic. They were just more or less saying what I've heard is there's nothing we can do. No matter what we're doing, they're kind of just giving up on it. And I said, well, you can't give up. You have to look and see. If you want something different, you got to protest, do something. And they're just like it's beyond them. Well, there are people that said, we're bringing this solution. If you were to send, I said, look at Elizabeth May over in Ottawa. She does bring different issues. So vote a green, protest, and send it down to Montreal or in Quebec City. Show them that we can decide to send somebody different that really speaks for them. And if we do this, well, then maybe they listen. But if you keep on voting for the Liberals like you're doing, and they just send it to the rest of them in Quebec, well, you'll never settle this.
Okay, Roger. Some people will say a vote for the Green Party could be a wasted vote if you don't get elected. How do you feel about that?
Well, the thing is, we've made the issues, anything we touched the real issues. In 2007, for example, I ran, and I put on my posters that health was the main issue. So I wrote it down, and everyone was saying, oh, we have a great system. Within a week, the people looked at the system and said, no, the system's rotten. It hasn't changed. And the thing is, and the fact that we were bringing it up, well, it brings it to the forefront. And also, when you protest vote, if people were to look at it and say, well, the guys that are there are not answering our needs, let somebody that will speak for us. And when you vote for the Green, it sends $2. Well, this helped us enormously, and if we had more money, we'd push it. And the fact that you dare to vote for someone else sends a message to Quebec that say, hey, if we're not careful, we're going to lose the 5 seats in this area. And I think people have to be ready to make change, and that's what they're not doing right now.
Now, the last election, you got like 4% of the vote. If your vote went up more than that, do you think that would send a strong enough message to the incumbents that they should do something, because this is like a referendum on healthcare right now?
Well, the thing is, the minute, let's put it this way, politicians are sitting on the fence, and when they see the wind coming to knock them off, they move. So yes, it would make a difference. It would give us the $2, and plus it also send them the message that people are starting to look at other parties they're fed up with the not being served, because everything is going by Quebec, everything is inside Quebec, Montreal, and this we're taken for granted.
Yeah. So if you could get 10,000 people to vote for you at $2 a vote, that's then sent to the Green Party, then you would have $20,000 to put towards this issue,
advertising and so forth. Because the papers, if you don't advertise, I think don't touch you. The newspapers and the media, of course, if you're not in the clique, well, they don't seem to cover you too much either. Yeah.
So there's biased media against you. There's the incumbents trying to push issues that only interest their leadership, and Montreal and Quebec City, and you're trying to push something that's local here, that's for trying to keep people alive in Gatineau, and it's a challenging campaign, and it's going to be interesting to see how Gatineauans respond. Are they going to be leaders and vote for Roger Fleury and healthcare, or are they going to sit back and stay home?
Well, let's put it this way: you can't get more loving people than the Gatineau people. The only thing is they're going to have to take a little bit of leadership. You just can't just be followers and be cattle. I think they have to stand up a little more. That's one of the weaknesses they have. But God knows that we're part of them, and we're loving people, and it's one of the best towns to live in, except for the health services and our bureaucrats that are taking us for granted.
I agree. Unfortunately, if things don't get better, I'm going to have to move back to Ontario or somewhere else where they actually know how to run a healthcare system. Thank you very much, Roger.
Take care.